I'm not talking to myself. It's time to go beyond the book and get over your shell. All right, so welcome to the half hour happy hour. And we're here to talk today with Tom Kidd. I don't ever do stupid intros like that. So I'm just going to let this one ride because otherwise I have to edit something and I'm way too lazy. But so it sounds like you are a very active, busy guy in the community, not just on your own work, but within the community, talking to other artists and writers.
COVID happened and I withdrew. And then it's hard for me to go back to that. I'm not really comfortable with a lot of people around me and strangers. And slowly I'm getting used to that again. Meeting with people, talking with people, going places. I have a car that's almost 2 years old, less than 1,000 miles on it.
Wow. Yeah.
It helps that we live less than 2 miles from town, and I made a path into town. I built a bridge so I can cross a brook to go into town, and later today we're going to walk into town and go to the library to meet with the writers group. So when I say we, my wife is very much interested, and she's the one who pushed me to go to conventions. She enjoys them a great deal. She likes to get out. She likes to do things. Strange.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you didn't do that in the last 2 years or so, but or a lot less of it anyway. But
well, there's a LuxCon coming up, and I'm not going to make it.
No,
I'm going to miss it. I'd really like to go. The preparation for it is too much right now.
Yeah. So how long have you been going to conventions and things like that?
Really going to them, say 1980. But prior to that, I went to Syracuse University, and I met a great group of people there. They were phenomenal. And they told me, you really need to take your art to conventions. It was a science fiction group. And I don't have any money.
Yeah.
I'm a poor student. Don't you have to get a hotel room? I said, we put 12 people in the hotel room. You split it up, no problem. But then they went and created their own convention. So they did 3 of those in Syracuse. And the first one, my good friend John Perard was their con artist. And in the second one, I was the artist guest. And so that's some of my first sort of experiences with conventions, is going to them with friends. After that, when I started working professionally, it was great to go, and I got a lot of feedback. Since people don't necessarily know me, they know my art, they don't know me. Back then, they couldn't Google me.
No.
So my art would go up, and I would just stand a distance from it and watch the reactions of people, because
that's cool.
A person should have the courage of their convictions, and I just don't. That's
a great quote.
I need to see other people responding to what I do. And my favorite was a woman who cried. So I was very pleased by that.
Yeah, I think that is cool. You can kind of step back and just be somebody in the crowd observing the art along with with others and hearing what they're saying, and that's really cool.
It's what it is. It's creepy. There I am hovering over the stuff, and people are like, "Who is that jerk? Is he watching me?
Why is he wearing a raincoat?"
Right, we're going back to the earlier. Anyway,
yeah.
Although, see, I think I might have learned it. I went to a show in New York. I can't remember what convention, but I think it was mainly geared towards comics. And I saw some art up. I'm not in the business of upsetting people or hurting people or saying bad things about them. But I looked at the art that was there and I saw the name on it. And I said, holy mackerel, this guy's getting really good. His earlier work I thought sucked. And this is pretty, he was standing next to me.
Oh.
And he was very gracious about it. And he thanked me for recognizing his improvement. So
I mean,
was that okay?
I think that's a lot better than saying, what is this garbage? His other stuff was so much better. And then,
Oh, yeah, sure.
yeah.
Sure.
So were you going to conventions before you were selling work?
I was always selling work.
Yeah. Because
I
you said you were going to conventions and then before you made it your profession. So I didn't know if what came first.
I think that when I really started going to them, it was when I was working as an illustrator. That was when I really started attending them. But even still, compared to other artists, I was doing 3 or 4 a year. That's not a lot, really.
Mm-hmm.
And the East Coast. And if there was a World Con outside the country, I might try to attend that, just because I wanted to deduct a trip to see another place. And personally, for me, often they take a lot out of me. I would go to a show and then try to sleep at night, and instead of sleeping, all these faces would come at me of the day, and I'd be reviewing everything I said throughout the day, and not be as awake the following day.
Yeah, it just drains you.
Yeah, and what would happen is my metabolism would go up, and then at the end of the day, it would just drop, and so I was less fun towards the end of the day. I've been asked to give talks, and usually my talks come with a slideshow, pictures, and they are exhilarating. It's fantastic to, again, you're there, you're showing your work, you're getting reactions live, and when people get what you're doing and they respond in a way that you hope they will, it's gratifying. So I do miss that. I'd like to start doing that more again. I just have to get through 3 illustrated books.
Yeah. Well, so you're working on 3 different books right now?
I have a contract signed in the middle of it. I have a contract on my computer today that I haven't signed yet. I did some negotiating on it. And then I have a 3rd contract promised to me. So all of those in one stage or another.
Can you reveal? Obviously you can't.
Nope.
No.
I've signed. I actually haven't signed all the NDAs, but I'm told there will be one, so I'm honoring that.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's standard.
One thing though is, don't make a mistake of telling me you're considering me for something, and then 2 weeks later telling me, oh yeah, you're the guy for us, because by then I've told half dozen people. Because I still get excited about what I'm going to do, and when you're excited about something, you talk about it. So I think Thursday is the actual release for The Last Unicorn.
The people will watch this that day, so the cat will be out of the bag. Yeah.
I can tell people, and I'm looking forward to letting people know that I've illustrated this famous book, and it is I'm excited to see it.
Oh, so were you a fan of the book before Suntup approached you?
Well, that's maybe before the book was written.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was I'm a military brat. My dad was in the Air Force, and when I was still a baby, we went to live in England for a little while, and I was there all the way up to just about the age of 5. One day I wandered off into the woods. It's a good story. It's a good story.
Okay. Get a little
And
nervous.
a neighbor, found me, asked me what I was doing, and I told her what I saw. I described it to her, and she told me it was a unicorn.
Mm.
So I didn't really think too much of it. I knew that she told my mother, and my mother found it amusing. What's going to happen to my kid who sees these crazy things? When I turned 19, that same woman came to visit us in Florida. My 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 dad had left the military by then, and she called me the boy who saw the unicorn.
Mm.
So so by the time the book came out and I saw it, it was really 2 years, I think, after the book came out before I saw it. So I said, well, I have to read this book. And
Well, you had to verify that it was the last unicorn. I mean, since you're the unicorn
I
spotter.
want to see if Mr. Beagle got his description right.
Exactly.
And but it was all sort of, I should do this. It seems like I should, but it wasn't. At no point was I thinking in magical way. It's just not my way of thinking. I'm not one to go, oh, I was fated for this. No.
Oh, I see.
It's just an interesting, fun coincidence for me.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you could pull it back. I've seen your work on your website, and to say you're not a magical thinker is contradicted by seriously every single thing I see on your website. It's loaded with magic.
If you follow the way I do things, the way I actually do them, it's I'm less so now, but early on I was very calculating. People would tell me things, you need to do this, you need to do that. And okay, well, I'm supposed to do this. And my dad told me, one day you're going to have a job and you're going to earn money from that job. And so you better start thinking about it. And I was what, 8? And I thought, well, a job is where you go to work and you do whatever you do, and then you come home and you go back to work at least 5 days a week. I'm trying to figure out how to explain this, but I thought not that I would be an artist, because artists really seemed, that all the artists that I heard about and saw the work of and the things they did and the things they said, they all seemed like frivolous creatures to me. Mm. And I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that. So people told me I was good at drawing. We were in kindergarten, and they said, everybody draw a happy face. And I don't remember exactly what I drew. I remember thinking about it, but when it was done, the other kids were going, that's a face. You drew an actual face. And I said, well, I kind of based it on that girl over there. She's got a nice smile. And I said, but it looks like a face. I don't know what happened to that drawing. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
How close it was really to a face, but it wasn't a circle with a couple of dots and a little crescent, for a smile. But I do remember working on the nose for a little while, trying to figure out exactly how to draw a nose. Mm-hmm. So that was my first instance where people were like holding up something I did and going, look, there's something wrong with this kid. Maybe we should send him somewhere to keep him from influencing the other children.
Yeah, but you could have taken that talent and you could have gone into architectural drawing, mechanical engineering. I mean, there's so many things where you could take this visual gift and turn it into something very orderly, very fixed, but right. You turned it into things that were incredibly magical. When I was looking through all your landscapes and all your things, there's some people that illustrate an emotion or a scene, but every single one I've seen from you, well, and I haven't seen them all, but every single, it feels like a window into a whole other place. Like I could picture that space I'm looking at expanding in every direction forever.
Thank you. Thank you. That is what I would hope people experience. Well, anyway, go back to my little story, and then I'll kind of respond to that. I'm told I'm good at art. I'm on drugs at the time. Age 12, they put me on phenobarbital and Dilantin. Seizures. What are you going to do?
Wow, that's wild, because I was on phenobarbital and tetracycline for epilepsy.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we have something in common.
Wow.
Something unusual in common. I had encephalitis, St. Louis encephalitis, age 6, and that set me back quite a bit. But I largely recovered. I still have scar tissue in my brain. Anyway, I was a pretty good student. By that point, by age 12, but I had a seizure right in class,
Wow.
and I collapsed standing. I had to be standing when I had it. Wow. So I broke a piece of my chin off, and I literally fell on my face. So anyway, my grades dropped after they put me on these drugs for some reason, and I thought, well, I'm not going to be the amazing genius I would like to be, which was, I wanted to be a genius anyway. So I thought, well, I can still do art. I did really good with my art, and I never really seriously considered it till then. So drugs, and
big pharma.
Yeah. But I thought, well, I have to do this as a job. And I knew a commercial artist was, someone who did it as a job.
Mm-hmm.
I got a book on commercial art, and I read the entire thing and put it down and said, I don't want to be a commercial artist. And I was at my grandmother's place, a place on a swamp, or house on a swamp on cinder blocks in Florida, with those giant trees with the moss hanging over it. Yeah. And instead of grass, there was other kind of green stuff growing, and tiny little green tree frogs everywhere that ended up in the house. Anyway, she had a little article on Norman Rockwell, and I go, this is a respected person.
Mm-hmm.
He does really nice paintings, in my opinion. It would be a few years before I saw some of his originals, and unbelievable originals. Just, they floor you.
Really?
You would look at them and go, how the hand behind that has to be the most amazing hand. The way hands paint will surprise you. The reproduction just softens those pictures considerably. Anyway, so I thought, well, I'm going to be like Norman Rockwell. And I asked for the giant Norman Rockwell, but there's this huge, big Norman Rockwell book that came out about that time. I asked for that for Christmas or for my birthday, one or the other, but it was given to me. And I studied that book, and I thought, I'm going to be like Norman Rockwell, but I was reading comic books at the time, and I was reading science fiction at the time. And I was thinking, I'll be the science fiction Norman Rockwell. And the other thing that really influenced me, I just only think of it now, is I was trying to think of artists that influenced me earlier, and the list was getting very long, but I left this out, that we had a set of encyclopedias, and my mother had bought from a door-to-door salesman back in the days when salesman. It was a nice set of encyclopedias, and I looked up astronomy one day, and it had paintings by Chesley Bonestell. I went, this guy is painting a place in space from the point of view of a moon, and I never thought of anything like that before.
Wow.
And I thought, I'm going to be like Chesley Bonestell now. I never really got into astronomical art. I've done a couple of kind of astronomical paintings, but the idea, that level of imagination appealed to me, and that based on the science of the time, he was painting the way we anticipated things might look. And all of that appealed to me a lot. And as does speculative fiction, especially when they're following the science, and it's extrapolating from that and coming up with some of the amazing stories I've read is always been fun for me.
So when you get an assignment, is it usually a book that you're already a fan of that you like, and or is it something like what happens more often than not?
I uh I get things that I think I don't know what it is. Sometimes I feel like I'm misinformed. And then I read it and I go, even though this is totally different than what I expected, which is what's great really about writing. An individual sitting down and writing a story almost always surprises me. Other things, say television, say movies, they're all the same. There's always like, oh, I know what's going to happen next. And we have my wife and I have a running gag where I say, I didn't see that coming. And it's usually after I've just predicted it. And but with stories, I'm always surprised, almost always. And that's something I like. I like to be taken out of whatever my own thinking is and looking to see things through someone else's point of view. And I usually get some very good books to do covers for. So if anything, I'll get lost in reading a manuscript and forget that, I have a job here to do. And then I'll go back and go, okay, I better reread some sections to make sure I'm not missing a detail that's going to make me look stupid when the cover is seen.
Have you ever gotten any books that you're like, no, why would you have picked me for this? I ain't doing this, and passed on because it's just something you didn't feel was suited to what you could do?
More often, I get books where people say, Tom, I think you're perfect for this book. I'm thinking, I hope I am, but am I? Is this for me? Is this me? Is this something my work shows? And I do it. If you get pigeonholed into doing one thing over and over again, you get tired of it, no matter if it's something you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
You want to stretch. At least I see artists and writers who are phenomenal at doing one idea in 100 different ways. That's amazing. But every now and then I like to sort of jump away entirely from what I was doing. And the only way for me to do that early on as an illustrator is to do my own paintings, do my own ideas. And when the art was seen, and that's what's great about conventions is now, of course, we have the internet. But before that, I could take paintings to a convention and people would see them for the first time, and they wouldn't be book covers, and they wouldn't be the usual thing they think of me as doing. And I created, in one particular example, I signed it with a pseudonym, and that pseudonym is Nemo with a G. So G-N-E-M-O. And after exhibiting at a few conventions, I'd get calls and an art director would say, could you do a Nemo painting for me? So I created this alternate person this alter ego, who now does a particular type of painting that I guess I don't do.
Hmm.
And I was very pleased by that. But I realized that maybe I better, not create too many nom de plumes, because then it's going to just diminish what I'm doing. Maybe I've made my point.
Yeah.
And um, um, so even the last unicorn, you could count maybe 3 unicorn paintings I'd done prior to being assigned the book. And I give credit to Suntup, maybe Paul, I don't know who looked at my work and said, this guy can do this, is because it's not based on subject matter, it's based on
Tone and
can they
yeah.
capture the mood, can they capture the meaning behind that book or not? And I guess they felt I could do it.
Oh, oh
And
my gosh. I mean, when I looked at the work, I saw it first before I went to your website, and I'm like, oh, this stuff is awesome. And it has a vibe, like it feels like something that was contemporaneous with the first publication of the book. It feels like it fits when that book was published as well. But just that, and that's a huge compliment, because I think we've lost a lot of that. I think I see some art and it doesn't feel like it has that magic. Like I don't know. I'm not explaining it that well, but there's some art out there that doesn't feel like it has that wonder, the wonder with the magic. And then when I went to your website and I saw all your other work, I'm like, oh yeah, it just emanates out from the screen. It really does.
good. A lot of artists I know, I meet them, and I'm not a great interviewer. It turns out I could know somebody for 20 years and you talk to them for 50 minutes and I learn more about them from that. But I talk to them and I tell them how I went about doing what I do. And they said, we never thought about it in a logical process at all. I taught myself a bunch of stuff before, I started taking art classes. I taught myself perspective. It turns out you can teach yourself that without knowing anything about it, without looking at the book. It's a solvable problem. And I remember early on, hey, if I'm going to paint pictures and imaginative pictures, I'm going to have to build a vocabulary of how the world works and understand how light works and how color works. And I went logically studying things as I went about. And even today, it's very gratifying to look at a blank page and go, I can make that something. I can come up with something for that page. But I meet people who, other artists, it's seemingly they truly magically create these things. And for me, there's a lot of thinking behind it. I could tell you where the sun is in a picture. I could tell you where the moon is. I could tell you what the ambient color is and all of that. And I'm thinking about all those things. But in the same token, I'm playing with them, pushing them a little bit, saying, okay, I can get away with this if there's a mountain over there that's reflecting light this way.
So
why do I think it through like that? Why do I bother doing that? I'm not sure. It's just part of my personality.
Well, to me, it feels just off of what you said, that you're trying to really create something. You're trying to create, and like I said, when I look at the pieces of art, there's one incredible piece that it's a big statue of a muscle dude taking these 2 dragons, and then there's all these people in the square. And the thing about that picture is when I see that statue, your eyes drawn to it, in the energy captured of this guy holding these 2 dragons. And then only after you look down, you realize, wow, those people are tiny and this place is huge. And it's when you start to visually take apart the image and you understand the pieces within it, that, like, again, it feels like the world can go on. And it's because perhaps that you've done that thinking, like, where are things and why is light behaving the way it is, and why are the people here? Or, I think that thoroughness of thought in the process still creates magic. It does.
You make a good point there. That was, at the time I was doing that was a magical time, because a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, Craig Farley, said, "You're frozen, by the way, but that's okay. I hope I hope I'm still being recorded."
Doesn't matter what if Tom, I lost you for the last few minutes there.
I lost you too.
Okay. All right.
So I'll start again. A friend of mine named Craig Farley, an amazing artist, who's taken some of my paintings and animated them. And when I say animated, I mean full 3D, airplanes flying through the air, airships, lightning, just astounding work. But he's also a fantastic painter. So anyway, this was many years before that. He said, "Tom, there's a new company starting up called Tundra. I say you go show some of your Nemo paintings to Kevin Eastman." And I don't know if that sounds familiar to you, but it was Kevin Eastman starting the company. And I showed him what I was doing. And he said, "How much you're going to need to do this?" And I told him, and he said, "Okay." And then I was done with my presentation, going out to the car, and Kevin was nice enough to help me carry some of the stuff to my car. And then he says, "So when can you start?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I said, okay." And so I said, "I'm going to just use my imagination as much as I can to come up with some interesting ideas, work on," and it was there's a plot to the story, there's a background, there's a world. I've created religions in that world. I've the geography of the world is unusual. The humans there are an interesting mix of types of people. And there's even a group that that is basically, their philosophy is never take anything on faith. So and it's interesting how they create their culture. They've got their own culture, and then there's other cultures that kind of disagree with them, and everybody's at odds. And at the same time all that's going on, there's this huge adventure of something that's never happened before in this world, and well, our world either, at least not the way it's happening for them. So anyway, so I had a chance to just go all out, and I did that for a little over 2 years, and the company went away.
Oh.
Went away. It was not there anymore. It didn't just disappear. I didn't show up one day and they weren't there. Kevin called me into the office and he said, "I'm going to have to release you from your contract. And I'm supposed to own part of it." He was the part of the contract. He continued to own part of it. He said, "I'm signing it back over to you because I think you should be free to do with it as you like." And his girlfriend at the time was a Playboy penthouse playmate. No, not
Okay.
Playboy, playmate. And as a consolation, she gave me a book of naked pictures of her. And I was so stunned. I didn't see it coming. I was so stunned. I didn't think to ask her to sign it.
That's funny. Well, so you created all this work and it never was produced? It never saw the light of day?
Nope. No, it does. It does on the internet. It does in places.
Yeah.
I've got 15 chapters of it laid out in design. Uh,
Wow.
and I'm just waiting for somebody to come along and go, hey, let's do this like Kevin did, which seemed so easy at the time. I was like, I didn't expect it to happen like that. I thought it would be more effort. And then after that, I got offers. And once I read the contracts, it was like they got to own the movie rights. They got to own this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And then one case, a company said, this is a fait accompli. Tom, don't worry about it. We're going to do this contract. And just give you an idea of how far back this was. 9/11 happened, and they said, "Oh, the world's changed. We don't want to do anything like this anymore."
Wow.
So, of course, that was a really bad time for a lot of people. So I
Yeah.
can't exactly complain. And I didn't. But then years later, another company wanted to buy it as an intellectual property. And I don't even know if that works. I don't even know if owning an intellectual property is any true value unless it's already had a huge success. I mean, there's so many things that have been a huge success, and there's certainly intellectual properties, but they wanted to buy it, and they were willing to pay a lot of money for this. But they said, you hire a lawyer, we'll pay for him to draw up a contract. They got the contract and they said, we're not signing this. It gave me just some rights. It just gave me a few rights. And I was like, why did you have me write my own contract? You could have written the contract and maybe I would have asked for a few changes.
Right.
And the main point that they didn't like about the contract was that they had a period of time to do something with it, and if they didn't do anything at all, that it would revert back to me. And that hurt. That would hurt them, I know, but it would hurt me more to sell something and not own it anymore, and just have it just be, oh well, we tried, chunk, throw it in the trash.
Yep. And then it's yeah, and then it's locked up. And now you got to look at contracts for AI and all kinds of other things that they use people's work for.
Uh-oh. Now I have something more to worry about. Thanks.
Yes, there's always something more to worry about. That's the joy of this planet.
Even through all of it, even through everything I've said to you, and it sounds like a frustrating, sad time. I regret none of all that work I did. I am pleased to see the work again and again. And I did things I would have never done if somebody wasn't guaranteeing me a livelihood by doing it.
Yeah.
I am grateful for the time of doing that. And if anything, I could conceivably in the next couple of years do it on my own. I mean, just do the actual work of promoting it, selling it, all of that.
It's a lot. So are things ramping up for you? Are you feeling like you're getting busier? And
again, it's I'm just shocked that that I'm still valid. And that people are contacting me largely out of the blue. They want me to do things for them. Companies individuals. People want to buy rights all over the world. And I mean, there was about 6 years ago, I was pretty sure, that I'd run my course.
Really?
I At the same time, I've been working, doing some math, 44 years.
Yeah.
Without stopping, without a day when I went, I don't know what I'm going to do. Without somebody waiting for me to turn something in, without a deadline. And that's wild that one can do that as a freelancer. But yet, I sit down to do my own things, and people go, Tom, how would you like to illustrate The Last Unicorn? I go, yeah, I want to. Yes, I can set aside my own plans and do that. That's just too phenomenal to pass up. And all the other things presently on the docket, I just am very excited to be doing. And maybe what I think is special, my own stories, my own ideas, maybe they're not so special. Maybe they're not that important. Yet I still do them. I do them because they're gratifying. And
Yeah.
you can't, when you're working, when I work in kind of a linear way, when I'm thinking about I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and then stop that, and then think in a free associative manner, that's very calming and relaxing for me. And
Yeah.
I set aside time for that. It's difficult for me to get to sleep at night unless I'm working a story in my head, and I can wake up having solved the problem, or the problem with a painting. Even I'll solve it as I'm falling asleep. And there's something about I mentioned earlier how these conventions, they can get me frazzled, but when the lights are out, I think a whole lot better when it's quiet and it's dark. And I've been married coming up soon 41 years.
Wow. Congratulations.
It's good. It's good. And still my wife will come into her room and go, Tom, the sun's gone down and you're sitting there in the dark. What's wrong with you?
Wow.
I was just trying to complete some thoughts, and it was enjoying the quiet. So,
well, the results are amazing. I know when I saw The Last Unicorn and I saw your work, that's going to be such a prized edition for so many people. I think there's a lot of love for that story, a lot of love for that book, and you did it justice. You honored that work, and I think a way that elevates it. And then when you combine all those luxe items, all those materials that Suntup uses, and I haven't seen the finished book, but when you add all that together, that really is going to be some magic tome.
I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to that. And one of the things I'm also looking forward to is I consider myself a fantasy and science fiction fan. I consider myself something of a science nerd. And I love those people. To me, they're fantastic. They've always been unbelievably kind to me. I'll leave a show and leave behind a couple of paintings. Tom, you left 2 paintings behind. We're going to have to get them. Uh-oh. Boy, I seem like a ditzy artist now, don't I? Uh,
That's funny.
but it's weird, but uh, friends of mine, I've been seeing pictures of them next to Mr. Beagle. And I'm like, oh, I want to tell them what I'm working
Oh
on.
yeah, yeah,
I can't tell them because
yeah.
these are people who have bought paintings from me, people who contact me from time to time to ask me what I'm doing, what I'm working on. And it almost feels like I'm cheating them of something, not letting them know.
Right, right. Well,
It's
Peter Beagle knows, and he's not telling him.
okay, good,
So,
good,
I mean,
good.
I wonder, like, I would like to know how they. It's obvious you're a great fit for the book, but I don't know how your name got into the hat and how they picked you or how much Peter Beagle saw of your work during the process. So, um, anyway, I don't know all those details, but everybody's keeping secrets from your friends, and
Okay, okay,
very soon you're going to be able to tell them what you did, and they'll be able to see it for themselves. I think this is going to be a big book for Suntup, and uh, I'm dying. I can't wait to see the finished product.
me too, me too.
Well,
It's
thank you for your time today, Tom. It's been a blast. I love hearing and for all your logic and meticulous preparation, what you're creating really is I am here's the thing. I am not a big time science fiction or fantasy reader. I like literary, I like horror, I like other things. But when I see work like yours, it desperately makes me want to read something fantastic and something that's going to give me like the ultimate escape from where we're at. And that's what your work does. It really it takes you out of here and puts you on that moon, looking at that distant planet in places you can't possibly go physically.
well. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed talking to you. Um, I'm still keeping my fingers crossed that when everything is out there and everybody sees it, that the art directors, the editors, Paul, all go, Tom, thank you for for
Oh,
effort you put into this because it turned out okay.
oh, it turned out more than okay. And yeah, so but I understand where you're coming from, and the humility. It is vulnerable to put it out there and um invite sort of react. I mean, that's what your job is. Your job is to inspire emotion. And that can be very volatile and unstable and unpredictable. But as a fan of the work I've seen so far, let me be the first to say it's amazing. And I'm sure I won't be the last.
Thanks. I'm very happy that things have worked out as well as they have over the course of my life. So thank you. And thanks to all the people who somehow, have stuck with me, including
Yeah.
my wonderful wife,
Yes. Yes.
who's still here.
Still here.
Oh, I can keep up going for a walk right now. I
Well,
see.
go for a walk, enjoy your bridge, enjoy the beautiful weather. Well, I have beautiful weather. I'm sure you do too.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
I look forward to Thursday, and I wish you the best of luck with these 3 non-disclosure agreements you have to sign and whatever's beyond that.
Okay. Okay. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Bye.